what we used to affectionately refer to as the visual effects puppy mills, I believe that those days have come to an end.
Right.
I hadn't heard
The
that.
visual effects puppy mills. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Welcome to another CG garage where the monstrous moon shines. We're building new Hollywood like in 1971's prime. From Otis' bold dreams to AI's fever dream, where tech meets the silver or LED screen. Pixels and passion are pipelines unknown to host one show on a deadline
Hello, and
postponed.
welcome to another episode of the CG Garage. This is episode number 543, featuring Susan Thurman O'Neill and Stan Szymanski, arguably two of the best recruiters in the visual effects world. They're the people that really understand the industry. They also teach, as Stan is also a teacher over at Otis, and really great information for a lot of people out there that are trying to figure out how to navigate this world. What are the skill sets that people are looking for? What are the things that people need to know? The answer is very interesting. You're not going to get a job if you know Maya. You're not going to get a job if you know Midjourney. You're not going to get a job if you know Unreal. That is not actually what people are looking for and what you need to learn. You need to learn how to be a filmmaker. You need to be a generalist again, and you need to understand all aspects of film. So if you love making films, if that's why you're trying to do this, then study films. Don't just study Avatar and Star Wars. You need to study all the movies. You need to understand what the last detail is. You know, a movie from the 1970s with Jack Nicholson, you need to understand everything. So I would highly encourage people to go and listen to this. Really great information. Susan is a fantastic person in this regard. And obviously Stan knows a lot, and he tells a lot about what he talks to his students about. So really great information. Okay, I'm actually busy this week. We're doing some filming for June, July, which I'm very excited about. Those of you who are following the podcast, you are following along with us. We're going to be doing a shoot up near Yosemite, so you'll be learning more about that soon. And besides that, I will be at NAB at the end of the month. And if you guys are going to be there, I'd love to hook up. I might even bring my podcast gear with me. All right. In terms of the podcast, you guys know how to follow us. We're at cggarage.com. We also have a Discord. If you'd like to continue the conversation, just go to cggarage.com/Discord, and you'll be able to continue the conversation there. But for now, please enjoy episode number 543 with Stan Szymanski and Susan Thurman O'Neill.
This episode of CG Garage is sponsored by CenterGrid Virtual Studio. Wondering why you went to film school just to be stuck managing hardware life cycles? CenterGrid delivers end-to-end GPU-accelerated cloud workstations built specifically for VFX and creative production, with flat, predictable pricing and personalized support from people who actually get your workflow. Plus, CenterGrid is TPN Gold Shield certified, so your studio's security is locked down. Check out what Virtual Studio can do for your pipeline at cgvirtualstudio.com. This episode of CG Garage is sponsored by Kitbash 3D, one of our favorite tools and an essential tool for 3D artists everywhere. With the largest library of cinematic quality production-ready 3D assets, Kitbash 3D ensures that your studio has the tools to build stunning environments quickly, efficiently, and at scale. Design detailed worlds in a fraction of the time without compromising on quality. Head to kitbash3d.com and use the code CGGarage at checkout for 10% off any kit. Again, that's kitbash3d.com, code CGGarage.
Well, guys, thank you so much for doing this. This was actually something that I think, Stan, you suggested this months and months and months ago.
Yeah, it was after the production summit.
Yeah.
Which
No, but I think you suggested it almost 6 months ago or more.
I know, like I talked to you and Ed Taylor about doing something about the conundrum of college teachers dealing with AI.
Yeah.
Students that were very resistant to it.
Yeah, and so this is great because obviously you two have been very, you know a lot about the industry, you know a lot about the job market because you guys work in recruiting, right? And recruiting is a big part of what's going on right now. So there are skill set, like right now, if someone asked me, literally, I was actually at an event and there was a college counselor, right? A high school, working in high school. And he says, well, there are kids out there that are interested in this kind of stuff. where do I tell them to go? What do I tell them to learn? What's out there? What kind of degree should you get? And I don't have an answer anymore. Like, what's the answer to that question at this point?
I have no idea.
I sort of feel like you need to build layers. I think that like leaning back into more traditional ways of learning, the best AI filmmakers are people who were filmmakers before AI came around. So they understand composition, depth of field, color contrast. I was having a conversation with a guy the other day about he's a pipeline guy, and he's thinking about moving into software development, getting the heck out of visual effects because it's shrinking and compressing. And he's a person of a certain age, and he was bemoaning the fact that he didn't feel like he could compete against these snot-nosed kids. Pardon me to any snot-nosed kid in the audience.
I'm still snot-nosed.
Okay, all right.
But, good.
Any snot-nosed kid coming out of school who hits the ground running with AI. And I argued with him, especially with regard to software development. It's really important to understand the basics before you use AI as an additional tool. It should never replace your the legacy wisdom that you have from 30 plus years of watching the technology evolve. So for me, it would be like, learn the basics, figure out what makes you tick. Is it building tools? Is it making pretty pictures? And, become a classical artist or something? I don't know. I mean, I do feel like, and Stan, you might have an opinion about this, what we used to affectionately refer to as the visual effects puppy mills. I believe that those days have come to an end.
I hadn't heard
The
that.
visual effects puppy mills.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Are you talking about the trade schools?
I'm talking about the for-profit schools that train people. So as I'm a recovering visual effects producer.
I know that.
Found my way into recruiting when my children.
Did they give you a chip?
I'll just put it this way. I believe there are more people working in the financial aid department at Full Sail than there are faculty members.
Absolutely. But I remember working with someone who was a newly graduate from one of said puppy mills.
Sure.
And he was a CG guy, and he'd handed his shot off to the compositor and said, "Oh, well, now that my shot's final, what's next?" I said, "Well, how do you know your shot's final?" He goes, "Oh, I got an A in Maya."
Nice. Did Maya give that too? Right? Someone named Maya?
Perhaps, I don't know.
Yeah, like it.
So I just think there's something to be said for real life experience and real life work to take the hubris, I won't use the other word I was thinking of using, right out of it. It humbles you. We all learn by screwing up.
Sure.
We all learn by failing.
Sure.
And I think that one of the failings of AI is that you're always right.
Yeah, that sycophantic attitude that AI brings to the table is really annoying to me. I agree.
I think, well, first of all, I feel bad because I remember just at the beginning of like the Midjourney days and everything else, and I was speaking to some people at some event, and these are young kids that are coming out of school, and they're like, I just spent $250,000 that I'm going to be in debt forever, and everything I learned is obsolete now. Like everything.
Yeah. Sometimes I walk out of, I teach at Otis College of Art and Design in Los Angeles, and I work with all the graduating senior classes about the reality of entering the job market. And for the past couple of years, it's been, I'm trying to encourage them. Well, I am encouraging them, and I'm helping them put everything together they're going to need for their personal marketing materials. But like for the past year, it's been tough because I just feel like I feel really bad for these kids.
Yeah.
Because the college is not really interested in AI. I talked to one of the department heads, and I was talking to him about the production summit that Jess and Eric did.
Yeah.
And, I said, well, what should we do next? What's the takeaway? And he was like, well, maybe if you can get some of those companies to come here and interview students. I'm like, well, I'm not in career services. Why are you going to do?
Right.
And then, it was funny. And he said, well, we have a student who will be graduating in 2030 that's going to be helping us. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean? So I just like wrote it off at that point.
Right.
Just sounded like it's a little sad.
Well, because I can, I did not, I sort of drank my way through a year and a quarter of community college. So I didn't effectively go to school for anything. But I
See, and you did just fine.
well, this is the thing, is like like everybody, I've had massive ups and downs, in the industry. And as an artist, but I feel like I've become, well, regardless of whether I make any money at any particular point, like I've become a successful artist as like, this is the way I think and this is how I approach my life. And like everything I choose to do is centered around this, and I end up making a lot of, and I hope this isn't too confrontational for anybody, but like I end up making a lot of teachers mad, especially when I talk, like even talking to my son's teachers or anything like this. Because my point of view is like school gives you nothing. Like it gives you nothing. School is not of itself valuable. You are the school. Whether you get that schooling from a school or schooling from going out and figuring it out yourself, or you get it from an apprenticeship, you're the one who's in control of it. Like it's for you to do.
Right.
And so if you go to a school and you go to a great teacher and you're like, I want to know how to do something, like that's you taking action to try to get information so you can control your life. Right. And sometimes you have to pay to do that. Sometimes you have to figure it out yourself and you spend, like you spend $100,000 on making your own movie and it's terrible. But you learn, like the learning is what you're in charge of.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
you're doing it for yourself. And so I think that my question is there a better way, in that everything is so fluid, is there a better way for people who want to figure out what they want for themselves? Is there a better question to be asking themselves than what do I do to other people?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Kind of. Is there? I'm not sure what the question is.
Meaning that like, instead, because I feel like when people are like, oh, what do I do now with AI? Like it feels like they're giving up a lot of opportunity when they do that.
Right.
They're like, oh, there's this unstoppable force and now I won't be hired. And like, you're making a choice to not do anything. If you,
In one of my classes, there was a student who's sort of mid-level, nice guy who shows up. This is amazing. And I sat down with him to look at his work, and it had taken a huge leap forward. And I was like, and he looked at me and he said, I used AI to make this. And I said, that's exactly what you have to do. If you're using AI to help you iterate and design, you have to be upfront about it.
Sure.
And not pass it off as your own. But he had these images, like a layered image of look like watercolor splashes. So I said, what about taking like a canvas and a brush and some paint and painting on it, and then bringing that in and mixing it in with, the digital layers that AI is giving you. And I don't know if he'll take it, but I noticed last week that his work was really, really good. And I think for him, this tool is going to be very advantageous. And he probably will do pretty well, actually.
Probably, it sounds like what you're saying is like, you're encouraging him to like he's the artist. Like, it doesn't matter what the hell he's using. Like, don't rely on something. And no one's going to come in and save your work for you.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like I'm confused by people when they talk about AI. They tend to think of it as like, this will do this for me. Like, I don't, as an artist, like no tools don't do anything for me, literally at all. Like I do the tool. Like this is it. And so like, if people are thinking about like, this is going to alleviate the burden of figuring this out for me, like I don't think that's ever going to happen. But it is the common way that people talk about stuff. Like AI is there to take over what you do, and that doesn't really happen unless you allow it to happen.
Well, there was the Oscars was yesterday, as we all remember, and there was they were doing the in memoriam stuff, and there was a Robert Redford was honored, and there was a quote on the screen that I looked at that it was like, this is important. I was going to bring it up today, and the quote was, "The glory of art is that it cannot only survive change; it can lead it."
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So
yes.
so to the students, you are at the beginning of this. It is your opportunity to lead this.
Yeah.
No one knows the answer. That's up to you to figure that out.
And that should be exciting. Like that should be an exciting.
That should be exciting. Right. But I think it's also scary. They want someone to tell them what to do.
Right.
And I don't think Susan, what do you think about that?
So as someone who studied medieval and ancient history with a minor in French, found myself working as the assistant to the chief financial officer.
So you're a medieval French person now? Is that what happened?
I put myself through school, and I was fortunate enough in high school to have teachers who encouraged me not to memorize things,
Right.
but just to understand how things happen along a certain timeline. I don't need to know the dates. I can look those up, but I need to understand how this thing affected that thing and how it helped us get to where we are today.
Sure.
And so what I would hope for anybody is that when you go to school, if you go to an academic school, you don't go to get a degree. You go to learn how to learn.
I was going to say that exact thing because I went to architecture school. I have a master's in architecture, right?
Mhm.
And technically, you should be an architect when you do that, right?
Right.
But I didn't, right? But what I did learn in architecture schools, I learned several things. As an artist is very important, right? Because I was also an art major in undergraduate. And when I go as an art major in undergraduate and you go to critique, it was like group therapy, like, oh, this is what my mother felt like, whatever, like, who, right? I go to architecture school and they literally tear your drawings apart in front of you, like, right? So I learned how to embrace criticism, which, by the way, a lot of students
Do not have.
do not have that ability. Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, that's going to make me better, right? And so I remember having this argument with Eric Barba, by the way. Eric went to Art Center, right? And he was talking about polish until it's perfect. And I was like, I learned to throw away, start over if it's not working. Right.
Yep.
And because that, nothing is in architecture, what they taught you is nothing is sacred. Right. No, your work isn't sacred. Anyone can make it. So you better do it. Right.
And visual effects is kind of a little bit about having shiny turds, isn't it?
It is. It is about shiny turds.
Don't pay attention to the bad screenplay. Look at this.
But it's like but there is an opportunity to throw it away and start over again, right? And so I think I was exactly what you said, learn how to learn. That's what I learned in architecture school. I learned how to learn. I learned how to take criticism. I learned how to adapt. I learned how to embrace. I learned how to recognize something that I liked or didn't like. I learned why I think something was good or something was bad.
Well, you learn to trust yourself. Like,
right.
Like because like when you say it like with, the puppy mills, which I'm going to say for the rest of my life now, like I've met plenty of people. I can think of like 2 or 3 people at least from Full Sail who are tremendous artists. Like they're terrific. Absolutely terrific.
So I would argue that there were artists with or without Full Sail.
That's exactly my point.
Yeah.
Exactly my point.
And kind of it comes down to like some platonic distillation.
Yeah, like these are really focus-driven people who have a vision in their mind that they're trying to learn how to get out as
and they're just lucky enough to be able to find an avenue that helps support that and build up on what they already know. Like, me, I started as a communications major, but then I learned that my university communications was for the sports guys that were setting up their plan B for when they get an injury or don't get picked for the pros. And I was putting myself through school. I was paying for it myself, waiting tables. So I was like, gosh, I do not need to learn the ABCs again. And the one thing I did learn to do is get rid of my Kentucky accent. So pronunciation and phonetics.
Out there.
Unless I talk.
French is coming through super strong.
My gosh.
The medieval thing is that.
They
sure.
do too.
Yeah.
And then I went to English, and the professor was this like really pretentious guy who wore a pocket watch or had a pocket watch as well as a wristwatch because he wanted to wear his Phi Beta Kappa key and wept in a room full of 300 people, wept reading Byron. Like, oh, come on.
That's
for the love of
big lift.
Pete.
Big lift, yeah.
And then I found my way to history because of this very untidy professor with one brown, one black shoe. Quintessential guy with messy hair and wearing my glasses over on my head, like that guy. And there was just something about, he was just so real.
Yeah.
And he gave me extra credit for a book report I wrote on a book about Martin Luther because I called out the block prints about how they kind of led some whatever depth to the story. And so he gave me extra credit. So I'm like, okay, oops, sorry, I'll be a history major.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it's so important though, right?
The artist thing. Yeah. So kids who are coming out of school today, what do we tell them?
I mean, here's the thing. Art is art. Art hasn't changed. Craft always changes, right? So don't go to school to learn a craft. Go to school to learn art, right? And so the best way for me to be inspired by art, honestly, is with good teachers. That's, I think, a very important part of the whole process.
We have one.
We have one right here.
Yeah.
We have one here. And so the mentorship, I think the mentorship is an important part of like, hey, validating how I feel, understanding how to communicate, understanding how to interpret things, I think is very important. I remember, and speaking of teachers, right? So I went to architecture school, as I mentioned, but I had a couple of things I could take, classes I could take that are not related to my major. And I took a documentary film class at Rice University, and the teacher was hilarious. He was really, really funny. He was this English guy, always wore a leather vest, and even though he was not supposed to, he would smoke in class, like while he was talking. So he's the English guy. Here's this. And I remember I was doing a documentary about this guy who I met, who lived in a trailer park, who worked at a chemical plant. And I was going to talk about his life because he had to do a documentary about a person. And then as I saw him, he got an injury. He got burned on his whole arm by molten salt from an accident at the factory. Yeah. And so I filmed it and filmed the whole process. And I had all this footage of stuff on VHS tape, by the way. It was linear editing at the time.
Right? Yeah, nice.
I still have boxes of VHS.
Yeah.
That's for anyone who's listening. That's when you used to have to create the videotape and tape it together.
Well, we did. It was a 2 tape, but you had to go one by one. But anyway, I sat there and it was on a Saturday, and I'm sitting there in the edit bay, and he was like, "What are you working on?" I was like, "I got all this footage. I don't know what to do with it." He goes, "Let me see." And he sat there and watched all 5 hours of it with me.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, this is interesting. And then he's like, let's break down this story. What is the story? And just that process of him taking that time to sit with me and like figure it out.
This makes all the difference.
It made a huge, I mean, honestly, that's why I'm here today.
Right.
You know, just those 5 hours that he spent with me in that edit bay was inspiration for me to tell stories. Yeah. Right. And it means so much. And I'm just going to say to all the senior people up there, do that. Yeah. Mentor people. Show people.
Real teachers are in love with what they are doing.
Oh, my
and
God.
they pass that love on to you.
For sure.
And one of the things that I tell my students is I walk them through creating a LinkedIn profile as part of their marketing material.
Sure.
And I do it step by step. And I say, okay, banner image, this is the resolution of the banner image.
Right.
Photograph, well lit on a neutral background. All that. I walk them through all of that kind of stuff and then get to the point. But one of the things they have to do is they have to connect to me.
Sure.
And I tell them that you can reach out to me at any time, but do it through LinkedIn because I'm in it constantly.
Right.
It's kind of like one of the major tools we use at Stanley Vision.
Right. Sure. And that's good. That's a good point. It's like having connections and understanding that and being connected to the industry. We didn't have social media, right? So it was who you know. But right now, LinkedIn, for example, probably people also use Instagram a lot more these days.
Yeah.
And that's probably a good tool. But honestly, industry there's a lot of stuff going on LinkedIn right now. But what would if someone said if someone came up to you, a college, advisor in high schools who's going to advise high school students, what would you tell them to say to a student? Like, what would you say, Susan, to?
Well, I don't think there's a blanket statement. Unfortunately, I think there's it's kind of individual. This person should pursue academia. This person should pursue art. This person should learn to be
But let's say they want to be an animator.
They want to be an animator. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that it's really important to have a really good self lens. Like, are you any good?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you have a talent for it, go to school for it. If you have a passion for it, go to school for it. I know so many producers who are failed animators, for example.
Sure.
So be open-minded to where the journey takes you.
Yeah.
I think that you hit on it when you talked about LinkedIn. I mean, it's Stan, we've had this conversation. It's not who you know, it's who knows you. It's really important to find people who know you and who will vouch for you and who will say, hey, Chris, I think you should try blah, 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 or something. Sure. And because sometimes you get in your own way. I think that let your passion drive you, because when you're 18, that's what you're going to do anyway, that and hormones.
Sure.
And
but I do want to correct some of your phrasing, if that's okay.
Sure.
Because I don't want to say failed animator as a
Right.
producer, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
that's not correct. Because I think people need to realize. I actually remember Scott Ross gave this talk. Specifically, someone said, if they're going to school, I'm trying to be an animator. If I can't be an animator, I don't know what I would do in my life because it's the only thing I've ever thought of. And he's like put it in her perspective and said, there are lots of jobs in animation, not just animator. And you can be lots of things and you have lots of opportunities. And he goes, at the very worst case scenario, you can own a lot of anime.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like I own a lot of records because Scott always wanted to be a big musician, right? And so it's like I own a lot of records and I have a lot of guitars. That's fine, you know?
Well, it's like you said, Chris and I talk about this all the time, is that I think that part of the problem that Hollywood has suffered for, years and years now is that producing has become a mechanical, money-oriented job as opposed to a creative job.
I love producing.
And real producers,
Yeah, I loved it too when I was doing it.
yeah, but and I think you'll agree with me, like the great producers are artists who have vision of what they want to see made. And
They enable artists.
they use artists like artists use paintbrushes, and so it's like and I know I brought this up before, but when they're going to make sound slams, we talked about it just before on the show, like when they're like, okay, we have the rights to sound slams, let's get this thing made. The initial pass on that is going to be like Gene Hackman as Hannibal Lecter and I think it was like, what's her name? Melanie Griffith was going to be Clarice, and I'm just like, that's not a movie that I can make happen in my head. I don't know what this is.
It probably would get made today with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. But like you have Ken Ut comes in and he's like, that's all wrong. That doesn't feel like the novel. That doesn't feel like it should feel like this.
Thank God for casting directors, right?
And having the taste to know what you're aiming at,
right?
Like maybe who knows? There are like, in fact, one of the most famous producers of all time. What's his name? The kid stays in the picture. That guy,
right?
Robert Evans. Robert Evans was started out as an actor, and he wasn't a very successful actor. He was just sort of like super handsome, but not very good. But he wanted to be making movies, and so he became a producer. And he ended up producing some of the greatest movies of the 1970s. Like, so that's to your point of just like, yeah, you may not be like, you may love animation and maybe you're just not a good animator. That doesn't mean you can't be responsible for making animated films. Like, you can make that happen. That's like, if you have it in here and you want to get it out, the way out isn't only through your hands.
Right.
When I graduated with a degree in graphic design, I was doing freelancing, working at ad agencies and stuff, and I really didn't like the ad agency scene. It was pretty awful.
Right.
And this was, I think, 1982. He said, as he pointed to the Tron poster, that I saw Tron at the drive-in with my brother,
Right.
and I was just blown away by it. And coincidentally, the school I graduated from, they were bringing in a team from New York Institute of Technology. And over 2 nights, they talked about what they were doing and how they were doing it. And I was like,
Was Alvy Ray Smith there at the
I
time?
can't remember who was there.
Because he was the one who he'd invented the Pixar machine.
Yeah. Wow.
Golly.
Wow.
God,
I remember. So
Pixar.
I remember hearing his talk. Sorry, just a little nerd talk. He invented the Alpha Channel at NYU at Institute of Technology, but they had this massive server or VAX machine or one of those mainframes, right? And he had to convince, and it cost $1 million. He convinced them that they needed to buy 2 more, and if they bought 2 more, they could do one for red, one for green, one for blue. That's how much power they needed at that time to make.
Yeah,
That's unbelievable.
So I found my way into CGI, as we called it back in those days.
Right.
And I started out working with a software engineering company. I was like a marketing assistant, was the demo jockey. And then when that company said, don't cash your check just yet, I changed jobs, and I got a job as a digital artist. And I did that for probably about 3.5 years. And I was working in Wavefront.
Yeah.
The last machine I used was a Tektronix XD88.
Right.
This box was as big as this table.
Right.
And as the industry was maturing, I was starting to talk to people outside of my sphere in Buffalo, New York. And I quickly realized that because I'm terrible at math, that I'm in the wrong career. And I made the conscious decision that I didn't want to compete with these people. I wanted to work with them.
Sure.
So that's when I moved to Pittsburgh and changed into being a producer.
Right.
And then after 4.5 years there, moved out to Los Angeles. And I just got lucky. I sort of lucked into through networking. I've never gotten a job by applying for it. I've always got it through people that I know.
Yeah.
Some friends of mine that I had worked with in commercial post-production wanted me to talk to them about this film they were working on. And the company was Pacific Ocean Post, which was on the corner of Lincoln and Arizona. And so I walked in. The people that I just met for the first time, I really liked them. And I was referred to them by a Quantel Henry operator. So they gave me the script to read, and I read the script, and it was terrible. It was basically like they took the George Pal War of the Worlds, and married it to the Towering Inferno. And
I thought you said the script was terrible.
It didn't read that way. So anyways, halfway through the film, we started to realize that this thing was actually really coming together very well. And so it came out. I remember going to see it. I went to see it with a bunch of people from Pacific Ocean Post, or POP as we called it. And we went to the Mann's Chinese Theater and saw it on opening day. And it was just amazing. It's hearing everybody scream at the screen and yell and shout stuff.
Yeah, it's incredible. It sounds like it.
And that because of that, the person who first hired me in Los Angeles had gone over to Sony Imageworks, and they were building this new division. And it was right around the time of the ILM invasion. Ken Ralston, Deb Denice, Lincoln Hu, all those people came in. And so he called me in, and they offered me a job as VP of digital production.
Right.
So now I had to shift gears again.
Right.
I was like basically a digital line producer on Independence Day.
Right.
And now I was going to be in charge of artist management.
Right.
And I did that for 13 years.
Yep.
And
that's where we first met, Willie.
yeah, exactly. About 2 years into the job, my boss, Tim Sardoff, asked me if I would take over recruiting for the studio.
Yeah.
And I told him that I would, but on one condition. And he said, "What's that?" I said, "You have to remove HR from the mix. They are way too slow. They're all about reports, getting 2 weeks to get a rec approved. And I had producers coming in my office screaming at me because they needed people by next Thursday.
Right.
So as soon as, so Tim fought the good fight, and he got HR to back off.
Right.
And then the next thing I did was I replaced all the recruiters with coordinators and digital production managers who were burnt out on production. I hired Camille Eden, who had just come out.
I know Camille.
Yeah. And then I hired Kelly Barshag, who just finished King Kong down at Weta. And Aaron Tankinson came from Meteor in Montreal.
Right.
And after I hired Camille, I realized that I was never going back to working with a recruiter again.
Right.
I changed the whole Imageworks style of recruiting to just passive recruiting. I mean, we let HR post jobs because they had to for, EEOC clients and visa reasons and stuff like that. But we went out and we just raided every company. I spent about 2.5 years in San Francisco every other weekend, meeting with people in coffee shops and hotel lobbies. And the people I wanted to get to, I couldn't get to them during the week because they were busy.
Right.
And at the time, I could sit down across from an artist and tell them, this is the job. This is what the job entails. This is the project you're going to be working on, or if unless you want to work on that project. So to get back to what the point was, I had to learn all this stuff, and I always use my design skills in some way, shape, manner, or form.
Right.
I have sketch pads and pencils and charcoal all around the apartment, and I just sit back and just draw stuff. I remember Ken Ralston, who was the creative head of the studio, he had an office that had no computer. He made Sony put windows in that opened in the building, and his desk was a huge drawing table.
Yeah, right.
And his assistant would tell him about she would read the emails to him.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I thought that was just fascinating. But anyways, I'm sorry, I'm digressive as well with this.
That's okay. I am curious though. I mean, you mentioned recruiting. I mean, obviously that's changed. You're not going and recruiting, traveling all over the place to try to get as many artists as possible anymore. The world has changed.
Yeah,
right?
I kind of want to back up just a little bit and say that I feel like really lucky people are just very curious people. And I think that very curious people are successful no matter what their vocation.
Sure, that's a good point.
They may start out as, like, Stan's story. They may start out as person A, and then along the line, the road gets really, really curvy and mixed up and stuff like that. And
Right.
I've been having quite a few conversations with people who are later in their careers trying to figure out, like, how do I pivot? What do I do next?
Yes.
And I think that the things that I tell them are universal. I think they could go for anybody in any career, first stage or whatever. And it's you have to think about three things. One of them is what you want to do. And maybe that's three things. Maybe you want to be a policeman, a fireman, and a doctor. The second is what you can do, the skills that you have right now that can get you to what you want to do. And the third, which is the Megillah, is what are you willing to do?
That's a big one.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Relocate, different compensation structure, different title.
How
go
much
back
do
to
you love
school.
the thing that you said you love is really
Exactly.
what's going on.
Yeah.
That's exactly it, on the nose, yeah. So, and then, put your money where your mouth is and know that it's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
You have to do a boatload of research. You should do a boatload of research. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a history major.
Right.
I'm saying you have to decide if you want to go into games, if you want to go into advertising, if you want to go into feature films, if you want to go to immersive, which is a lot of the same vendors that do advertising. And you have to make friends. The one I worked briefly at a school called Escape Studios in
Yeah.
Los Angeles.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. Bling. Flash and they're gone. And John Leonti from The Mill came in and gave a conversation to a bunch of recent grads. And he said, when you go to your internship, whether it's for school credit or paid or whatever, or you take that job as a runner or whatever, find yourself a mentor, but don't be weird.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought that was just such a brilliant advice. Like,
Yeah, I may have.
were you the weird one?
I remember that.
Showed up drunk to an interview or something. Yeah.
only a few times, up into my 40s. Yeah.
God. Head of training at Imageworks taught me something about interviewing because I was taking technical directors or TDs and promoting them into CG supervisor roles, and they were now becoming hiring managers, so they had to be in the interview process. So we would, go into the training department and train them. And Sandy Scortis was the head of training. She's just an amazing woman, and she said every interview you have to get a yes answer to three questions: will they do the job? Can they do the job? And how do they fit in?
Right.
So I tell that to my students. I'm like, look, if I reference my Imageworks days and I'm hiring people to go on to Spider-Man in 24,
Right.
they're going onto a crew of about 350 people. So you have to know how to work with people in order to be able to succeed at that. So I tell that to my students. It's like, it's really not that hard. Just think of those three questions.
Yeah. I think it's there was back in those days, let's just put it that way, back in those Imageworks days in the early 2000s and stuff, it was like, are you a modeler? Okay, good. Are you a hard surface modeler? Are you a character modeler? Are you this model? And that was it. That was your job. That's not the questions anymore.
It's all about the generalist these days.
The generalist, right?
Yeah,
and it's the artist too, right?
Right.
I mean, I hate to, this might sound bad, but there's probably 2,000 names on Avatar, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to guess about 10% of them are probably real artists. The rest are button pushers. And I hate to say that, but
That's been more.
Sadly, that's just what the ecosystem has reduced
Right,
itself to.
right. And I'm sure some of them would love to not be button pushers. Honestly, that's the reason I left Imageworks, is because it'll be 10 years before you're not a button pusher because you have to climb the ranks.
And that's true about any visual effects studio that uses the assembly line approach toward creating art. I'm not saying that in a bad way, but
yeah.
So, I had very few generalists in my department, and at one point it had grown to 750 people.
Right.
And everybody was a specialist. But I had a lot of people under the title technical director because that was the only title Sony would let me use.
Right.
And I had at least 50 different types of technical directors.
Yes.
Some were Houdini, some were look downs, some were shaders,
Right.
some were color and lighters, some were pipeline TDs, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But I think that's the thing. I think right now, it's, first of all, people are like, oh, there's no more jobs in Hollywood. It's not like there are going to be no more movies.
Well, the demand for making movies is enormous.
It's enormous.
It's enormous. So there, yes,
It's just the way that you're going to be doing movies
Right.
is.
So here's a little bit of a segue.
Okay.
Do you guys see any future in the vertical drama?
I actually think about this quite a lot.
Yeah.
As a director, and because I think that I think you pressed a big red button on my chest. I'm going to go a podcast of its own. That's it. Take it away. Let me, and then I'll go.
Okay, so here's my thoughts about it because I know how you're going to say it, but maybe it'll help you. First of all, I think that like every other problem that I see in the Hollywood system, we try to quantify everything by this is going to be a success, so therefore do that, right? When a movie succeeds, they don't say because it was a good movie. They say because it was released in February, because it was doing this, because it appealed to 6 quadrants or whatever the hell they want to do, right? And so they don't actually say because it was good, right? So right now, vertical video stuff is doing well in China and in Asia, right?
Yeah, my wife
Super big.
talks to me about that all
Is
the
it
time.
true that in China, when you turn your phone this way, you get the long form, and you turn your phone this way, it's the short form?
I don't
No,
know
it's
that.
interesting.
I heard that,
That's
and
interesting.
I can't let go of it.
So,
Yeah.
but it works in a specific way. And so the problem I think we have on the West is that we're just basically trying to duplicate that because we say that's what kids want. By the way, I think it's wrong to think that kids just want short form video. That's not true. I think that they actually have a big budget.
Well, this is the
Vertical video is a fascinating idea. And I don't think we need to replicate what they're doing in China. That's a different audience, a different culture. There are plenty of opportunities for us to think about what a Western version.
Yeah,
of
like you
vertical
have to
video is.
so the first thing you have to look at is like as an artist, you have to go like, is this an interesting problem for me to solve? Like, is this something that I would like to, if I could solve it? Is this interesting? Do I want to do that? Right, that's the question. Like, do I actually want to be doing this? Because like the answer to it,
Lean back a little bit.
oh yeah, you bet. Because like the answer to that is going to like that is what will provide you with something if you invest your time. Like you'll go, I solved it, and this is really interesting. That's going to be true whether or not it fails. Like you're like, this didn't work, but it was really fun to work on, very interesting and artistically satisfying. So like this is actually what you need to do first. If you're doing it because, oh, it's making money in China, like then that's not as good a driver.
So my question had an ulterior motive.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you think about places where people who learn graphic design, visual effects, where can they apply their trade? Commercials, games, gaming cinematics, feature films, episodic, immersive events, LA28, medical visualization, software development, software as a service, kind of working either in-house or marketing. So I was just wondering if there were any opportunities inside of vertical, like, medical visualization people will have room for 6 people, whereas a visual effects show will have room for 100, so it's different seats. I was just curious if there were.
Well, I think that like that for the audience and for the worker, the question is, why am I here? Like,
Right.
What am I doing this for? Like, what am I getting out of this? For audiences, like, what am I getting? Like with vertical video, for instance, like, they're like the vertical dramas that I've seen are universally terrible.
Schmaltz.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
terrible, and they don't.
QB 2.0.
Yeah, it's like yeah, exactly. Like, and the thing is, like Kubi was interesting because some of those actually had really high production values.
They
Right?
did, yeah.
But they failed in the opposite way that vertical video fails for me now. Right? Vertical video, it's clearly a hit, and it is offering something to people. So you have to understand what it is actually giving to people. Like, what is the value here? And that will tell you whether you want to be involved. And it starts to describe the scale of what you would do to make it interesting for yourself. Right. And the same thing for the audience is like they're not going to watch it if it's not interesting to them. And so like, I think what is happening with like AI dominating things, all these mechanisms changing, is it's sorting itself out into, what are the things I want, as a viewer, right? What are the things I want to get out of or need to get out of something for it to be interesting, versus the business angle of like, how can we get away with that, getting that to them as cheaply as possible, right? And in both cases, the people that make these things and watch these things are looking for the art of that. Like there's business things that are squeezing it into different boxes, right? So the scale of what you may enjoy as a movie may change. The size of the production may change radically. The demand is still sky high. So you can't say there's no more business in movies because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of movies being made, right? But they're being made differently. So now the production is this big, smaller, which means less people. That means the people involved have many, 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 many hats. So that means if I'm going to get into this because I want to, I can't just go in there and be like, I'm a texture artist. Like you need to be like
Everything.
I need to be everything.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be in on that, I need to be everything.
And that's liberating. Can you just lean back a little bit? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
And so like
more.
and so like so I need to be a little bit of everything in order to do that, right? And if you're trying to understand what is going to be successful, like vertical dramas, like if you think it's successful in some mechanized way, like, oh, people are stupid, they just love giant robot movies, you can give them anything, you're going to fail. Like you're going to fail. Like if you go, people love giant robots fighting, they love that. Or in vertical drama, they love like weird little intense emotional moments, right? And they need the slightest amount of setup to trigger that.
Yeah, I think the big successes there are melodramas.
Yeah,
melodramas.
like I was talking General Hospital.
But again, that's that audience.
Right.
Yeah,
That doesn't necessarily mean that doesn't mean that we have to do melodramas here.
Right.
It doesn't doesn't mean that we have to make them 17 seconds.
Right.
It does. We can make them a 2-hour vertical movie.
Like
you wanted
you're
to.
looking at a different audience and you're asking, what is it that they want? What is it they're looking for?
Right.
Because like if you look at say like people like, oh, like people actually say this in forums, they're just like, you can't make movies look good in a vertical format. I'm like, if you go to a museum and see Ansel Adams photographs, you can make any ratio look great. You can.
Right.
Right. But you must approach it with trying to make it work, not saying, oh, these idiots are doing it.
I do find it ironic though, because if you really think about it, obviously cinema was cinema, right? And then all of a sudden television came around and it was a smaller, 4:3 aspect ratio. And the only way that the movies thought they could compete with that is to make a wider version.
Yeah,
because that was how, so VistaVision and all this 239 and all that came out of a response to movies and having to compete with it.
Right.
The irony is now like vertical video is completely the opposite. And now people are like, we have to compete against phones, which I don't think is the
So now
way to
put TV set on its end and watch it.
Well, you're watching the thing that was made for your TV while you're watching, because they're redoing all the audio, all the
plot
dialogue and making it more descriptive of what's happening on the screen, so you could be looking at.
I got a better idea. Make a story compelling enough that you don't look at your damn phone.
Well, yeah, exactly.
So there's that.
But like to what you're saying, like they like when they released
the Casablanca thing yesterday was so funny.
Oh, they used very fun.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
The opening was hysterical.
The opening was so good. It was so good. It was, but they did they redid a scene from Casablanca where they were over explaining the plot. Now, which
that was good.
So they would do it like Netflix, like we're talking about World War II, right? That's the Hitler one, right?
Just to make sure, in case you're doing something else while you're watching this movie.
Yeah. I was talking to the students one day, and I was giving them an example of something. I can't remember exactly what the topic was, but I referenced Alfred Hitchcock and one of his films. And I said, it was blank stares. So I said, how many people have heard of Alfred Hitchcock? And like nobody had ever heard of the guy. And I was like, wow.
So
isn't that part of the puppy mill problem, though?
Well,
I think that's poor parenting.
Yeah. Well, okay, but there's something to discover in this, okay? Because I saw on TikTok someone had put up a scene from Rear Window on TikTok. It was just the shot. Like you're looking at the dancer as she's practicing. Yeah, you're looking through it, and the camera wanders over to something like that. And like I was like, this is fascinating. Rear Window is made for TikTok. Yeah. Like it has the same sort of voyeuristic attitude. Yeah. And I was like, so now we've just unlocked something from an old master about how you might make something for TikTok.
Sure. I read an article a couple of weeks back now, maybe a month ago. It was like right before the production summit. And it was a newly formed production company in London, or they were somewhere in the UK, and they were remaking, or they were taking Alfred Hitchcock's The Lodger and turning it into a vertical format entertainment. They weren't rebooting it; they were just reformatting it and then releasing it in 8-minute segments.
I think that's absolutely fascinating because Lodger is made it as a square.
Yeah.
But it's also incredibly like formalist and experimental. Like you're looking through glass ceilings. Also, that's not a frame, that right? It's incredible. And so like I think that like he's trying to solve things back then in this monstrous, crazily invented way, right? With the limitations of this format. Like just watching a lot of that stuff puts you in the mindset to solve a similar problem for this new format.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like that's what I mean about the vertical video question. It's just like, be excited about solving the problem and you will be further along than anybody else.
So I think this is a good point because let's bring that up. Before the AI things that was going on that disrupted everything, like you were never allowed to do experiments in Hollywood. You had to follow the formula. You had to follow the 4-quadrant formula that was coming out there. And everyone had that responsibility. There was no invention. It was set in stone. You go to any AMC theater, it was all Marvel films or whatever franchise was out there. There was no experimentation. Now that all that's kind of like disrupted, that kind of experimentation is up for grabs.
This is what's going to save us all.
So what do you say when someone goes out there, in a situation, we know, I go on LinkedIn, there's so many people that've got the little green open for work under their names, right? That are looking for jobs that have 25 years of experience in this job. And you said, what are you willing to do? What are the jobs out there? What are people looking for in terms of that?
I have 3 open roles that I'm searching for right now. So I'm a gun for hire kind of recruiter.
Yeah.
I work very kind of bespoke, and it's if you need a unicorn,
Right.
call Susan. So right now I'm looking for a environmental generalist in Minneapolis for a sports hype film company.
Okay.
The guy who runs it also does these really gorgeous, gritty, cinematic moving. I'll send you his link afterwards. It's just like really gorgeous work. And he's happy to import people, which is great because in this environment, it's kind of difficult to import people. And he would like somebody who is maybe senior enough to help. Their pipeline currently is Cinema 4D, After Effects, the Adobe Suite, a little bit of Maya. He's open to Houdini. He's open to Unreal. But the person also has to have some gravitas so that they can mentor people and help implement this pipeline, lead the project creatively, maybe argue with him if they feel like they have a better point of view, somebody who's confident, but he's also limited by Minneapolis funds, money, because you've got to have equity within the company. You can't have somebody come in making LA money when everybody else is making Minneapolis money when they grew up in the studio. So it is a true unicorn search. And the place that I'm finding most of these folks are in Vancouver, and they're there from Poland and Germany and Sweden because there are no generalists in the United States right now.
So
there are no generalists in the United States.
Insisting. And so like when you're talking about like when we make things now, and I do believe that like necessarily I was saying projects, even big projects will get, you're not going to see 2,000 names at the end of credits anymore. I don't think that's going to be a thing. Like you're going to have smaller and smaller sets, which means more generalists, which means more artistic taste and talent that you are trying to put together. And it occurred to me last night on the Academy Awards, they had a new Oscar, right? The new Oscar was for best casting.
Best casting,
right?
Yeah.
And when you were describing what you're talking about, I was like, you're a casting director.
Pretty much.
You're a casting director now.
Yeah.
Because like previously with pipeline shows, recruiters, when I deal with recruiters, you're just like, okay, I'm looking for 16 people who know about font shading, blah, 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 and like just plug and play.
Butts and seats.
But now you're talking about like, I need artists, and I need the artists to work together in these ways. Like Gene Hackman and Melanie Griffith doesn't make a good Silence of the Lambs, no matter how good Gene Hackman is.
Right. I saw a thing that said that Christina Applegate was considered for Legally Blonde. So yeah, that would have been a completely different
and
movie.
I love Christina Applegate.
Yeah, me too.
But just not the place for her.
Exactly.
So the
I
other.
think Doris Day was supposed to play Mrs. Robinson.
Oh my goodness.
That's kind of hilarious.
No.
I'm glad you love it.
Are you trying to seduce me?
Exactly.
Oh my god.
Yeah, a lot.
So the other 2 searches I have are around AI, funnily enough.
So what is that?
So one of them is kind of more performative, I call it performative AI, where you are doing prompt generation to help create elements for a director to sell a pitch, or maybe it's a quick previs or a quick cinematic, animatic, storyboard, proof of concept. The director goes out and shoots something and comes back
Different
and
kind
says,
of concept art. Yes.
and says, can you add a Michael Bay type explosion and make it look 50% more mysterious and slow it down by 50%?
Now you can actually
Let's
use that as a direction.
go back to the 1990s and make it that sepia, color correct. So they want someone like that, but it's got to be somebody who's an amazing artist, but who isn't going to say, well, why aren't you? It's a production company, so why aren't you repping me as a director? Here I am, generating all these elements for this person. So it's ideally someone from like a Buck or a Scholar, man versus machine, like those kind of, sort of cinema 4D-ish design, but also photoreal. It's maybe Brand New School, like those kinds of companies. And then the second one, the job description asks for 3 things. I think there's a lot going on with AI right now. Like people really don't know what they want or what they need. They know what they think they want. This is called an AI generalist position, and it's inside of a traditional visual effects studio. It's going to be, AI is going to be its own department. They want someone who can use Comfy to create workflows, someone who can write tools to hook AI into visual effects, and someone who can prompt. And it really, to me, feels like the back end person's one person and the front end person's the other person. So, and as I've been diving into this, I've been like, people have been so generous, and I've gone to escape.ai, which is, what's his name from The Matrix? Oh my gosh, Gaeta.
Yeah, John.
Yeah.
So John Gaeta can't get rid of the name Escape. And so he's created a website called escape.ai where people go and showcase their performative AI work. And, when I'm looking for this person who is looking for more performative work, and I just mean like prompting. I just mean like creating visuals versus writing tools.
Right.
They're like UX people.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
not even people from visual effects.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Well,
and that's why it's like the tiny waisted, big busted fantasy women. It's not like anything in reality.
Yeah. We did work with one client, and they wanted technical artists. And I remember the first person I interviewed for the job, I said, this company is looking for a technical artist. And he said, to do what? And I told him the information I had. And he said, well, there's at least 50 different types of technical artists. So
Right.
in talking to my students, I'm telling them to be a technical artist, you're basically a liaison between creative and engineering. So
Right.
you have to be able to talk engineering. You have to be able to find out from artists what they want, what they need.
Yeah.
And then you have to explain it to engineering what they want and why they want it. And that's really what your job is going back and forth. So you have to have a creative background and you have to have a technical background. So when students are showing me their stuff in Unreal, I'm like, are you using Blueprint at all? And most of them aren't.
Right.
There's one, or are you using Python? And
But that all can go away too. I just pointed like right now, everyone's like, oh, we're just going to use Unreal. But it's like, but that Unreal isn't even made for the video. It's made for the video game industry. It's not made for the film industry, right? So it's and that might itself go away, right? And like so we like learn to learn.
Learn to learn.
100%.
Learn to learn, because you don't know, like going to school to learn Maya or learn Unreal or learn how to prompt for Midjourney ain't gonna cut it in 6 months.
In the days of AI, like so you said you went to, it was medieval literature,
Medieval history.
and so like
French literature.
Just repeat itself.
French literature like is a far more valuable skill set to a prompter than
Absolutely.
yeah.
It's about resources.
Yeah.
It's about understanding what or who you have to call upon in your life to help you solve the problems that you may have created yourself.
Right. Like by being able to like knowing who Caravaggio is
Right.
is important to being a prompter now. Right.
Yeah.
And like knowing specifically like
History.
like I need I would like this to look like the Judas kiss. Can you give me like something along these lines?
Right.
And because if you don't know what the Judas kiss is in the first place, you're gonna have a hell of a time trying to describe
Or
what
know
it
who
is.
Alfred Hitchcock.
Or know who Alfred Hitchcock is.
And here I am thinking on Judas Kiss is like a Hershey's Kiss and the guy from Judas Priest or something.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
No, you're exactly right.
But I think that's exactly right. Having that reference. I mean, honestly, that's a great point. like learn history. Now, this is the greatest opportunity to learn about. If you really want to make movies, then learn about the history of filmmaking.
Watch movies.
Watch movies.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Not
like
on your phone.
Yeah.
Well,
you know,
it's
you
like
want to make go. What's McCabe and Mrs. Miller? Go
Exactly.
watch that. You know,
I mean, that is this.
find out who. If you love cinematography, you know who
my
Gordon
greatest-
Willis is.
There's a line, I forget which, it's Greta Gerwig has a line in a movie. I can't remember which movie. It's Miss America, I think, where she goes, I'm an autodidact. That means I learned myself. And I was just like, and I think of this all the time. I'm just like, I know it's ridiculous to be like, you really have to teach yourself and be proud of the fact that you teach yourself.
Sure.
Because that is who is going to teach you. Like,
For sure.
real teachers are there to help you teach yourself.
Absolutely.
Like, and like the greatest teachers, like, I mean, like there are actual physical people who have been great teachers in my life.
Right.
There are teachers like Kurt Vonnegut is a great teacher.
For sure.
Never met that dude. He was dead before I even knew about
Right.
him. You know, but this is what you have to do in order to have just the language to express what you.
I'm going to give you a better example. Autumn Gerald Archipel. She won the Oscar yesterday.
Interview here.
I interviewed her on this podcast, right?
That's so
Amazing.
cool.
Yeah. So she came on this podcast. She's the first woman ever to win cinematography. But
know,
it doesn't matter.
amazing.
She's also the first woman ever to film in IMAX. Both things are shocking that is taking this long to happen.
Agreed.
Okay. Nonetheless, she's extremely talented. And if you've ever seen Sinners, you can see it influence. And I asked her, what were some of the influences for you? And she had Gordon Willis up there.
Gordon Willis.
And if you could look at her movie, you're like,
like,
I get it. I
Yeah.
get it. And then I said, what was your favorite Gordon Willis film? She said, Clute.
Yep.
And I'm like, hell
Incredible.
yeah. And that's because she learned. She had that
And
reference.
this isn't to say she's ripping off Clute.
No.
Like, I mean, she just like, she had an
She
artistic-
tested Clute in the prompt and got
that's
that
right.
out. And that's how
She had an artistic experience watching it.
Yes.
And that informed her and her feelings about what looks great. And then she made something of her own that is,
So her own. It's so unique.
yeah.
But
And so,
you
like,
can see the influence.
when you talk about and this is where I really argue with people about it. I mean, I've been an artist my whole life, and people like still try to school me on what being an artist is when they talk about AI.
Teensplaining?
Art
Yeah,
explain.
Like artsplaining, like
Tech-splaining.
I can tell you what being an artist is. It's having good taste and persistence to not stop until it's what you want it to be that represents what's inside your heart. That's it.
Yeah.
There isn't anything else. Anything else is tools. Anything else is craft. But if you don't have the persistence, and if you don't have the vision, and if you don't have the ability to have a dialogue with your own work and change it as you go, then you're not doing it right yet. And it doesn't matter if you're using AI, and it doesn't matter if you're using Paint, it doesn't matter if you're using Maya, you're still not going to make good work until you understand what that relationship is.
Yeah, for sure.
So someone's 21, they're coming out of school.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we were originally
Yeah.
supposed to talk about. I love the way that we've kind of
We always just happens.
gone all the way around
Yeah,
This happens.
under.
So you're 21, you're coming out of school, and you're like, oh, God, I just learned all this Maya skill, and I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah. So what should you do?
What should you do?
I think that like the practical things are to make yourself a LinkedIn profile, connect yourself with recruiters. I get contacted all the time, kids right out of school, and it is written into my DNA that I have to take a phone call with these kids and tell them everything I know and help pull
Same.
out of them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I
Good.
mean,
So they can connect with you.
they can connect with
All right,
us.
great.
Kids. So, but I mean,
Anyone on the
I'm not going
podcast?
to have the answers. That's the only
No.
problem.
No,
is
no, no.
That the answers are going to come from within you and with your experience. So there's tools that you can use when you come out of school, such as maybe, I know you're not the person at Otis, but there's somebody at Otis who's responsible for helping place people in the industry and helping them find their way. So
Right.
make friends with that alumni connection kind of person. I really wanted to create a big LinkedIn post pulling together all the internship opportunities that I was seeing kind of trickle in one by one. And I don't know that there's a place in the world for that. But that would be an amazing thing, like the Disney interns and the Sony interns and the Blizzard interns. And if you have a company that you love, chances are they have an internship you need to get in December. You need to get your application in and show that you're absolutely, on it. And this is what you want. This is important to you. And don't just put all your eggs into the Blizzard basket. Put your eggs in a bunch of different baskets.
Right.
Um,
One of the presentations I give is I talk about these are different routes you can go down, and I do technology, and I put programmer, systems engineer, IT support, and then I do feature facility management, production manager, artist manager, those kind of positions. And then also, if you're going into production management, coordinators, producers, executive producers, these are the career paths. So I'm trying to get them to think outside of, I have to get a job using Maya. To use your example.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I think that like when you talk about using LinkedIn, like the thing, like putting your stuff up, like constantly make things and show what you can do all the time.
Yeah, I have a couple of students who are doing that. There was one who posted illustration, an animated illustration that she did, and her comment was, "I've been studying working 3D into my art because I hadn't done it previously." And she posted this piece of 3D, and her art is beautiful. And
That's it.
she's one of my only students who contacted me and wanted to talk to me and ask me questions about the job market and what she could do. So, I jumped on the phone with her. I was back east during the in winter in Buffalo. It's not a lot to do.
Nice.
So I've been there. So
I just reminded, I had just having this conversation the other day, and this was a long time ago, but I remember I used to be an architect, right? And I was the 3D guy at the architecture group, and I kind of resented that a little bit. But nonetheless, I was the big 3D guy, and everyone's, back in the early 2000s, there weren't many of us. But there was a lot of architects who are like, I'm bored being an architect because I'm just doing drawings of construction documents and it's not excited. So I want to learn how to do this 3D thing, or this AI thing, which we can translate to today. What do I need to do? And I would give them a very basic assignment that would be about an hour just to familiarize. It's like, take this tutorial, you do it on your own time after work. 98% wouldn't do it.
yes,
They wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
They would never get that one thing out. And I do remember just never taking that step. It's like, it's so easy. It's 1 hour of your freaking time just to get
it's going to
get
do this for
started.
you, and you say you want to do it. So
Right.
do it.
And no one would do it. And what was fascinating to me is David Gensler, Art Gensler's son, who was, I think he was the CTO at the time or COO, nice guy. But he asked me for a favor. He says, can you help my daughters? And they're probably 4 years old now, but back then they were teenagers. And they said, they were going to do some assignment for some robotics class and they need to learn some 3D stuff. And they're like, can you help them learn some 3D stuff? And I'm like, okay. So I taught them. These 13-year-olds were doing way more than anyone else.
Yeah, but they're digital native.
They were not even digital native. This is back in 2002.
Wow.
And they were like, okay. And they're like, because they know how to learn.
Right.
Yeah, because they it's like this. Yeah, talk about somebody who ripped off Hitchcock constantly. Brian De Palma's Untouchables. I love the Untouchables. It was a formative movie.
Yeah, that one really surprised me. I was used to carbon copies of.
You're ripping off whatever. Yeah, exactly. But Untouchables really stuck with me, and one line in particular hung in my brain since I was 14 when I started 15. It's when spoiler alert, when Sean Connery is dying. Sorry, everybody. When Sean Connery is dying. Right.
They're not going to watch it anyway.
And the whole thing is they need to get the bookkeeper, and the bookkeeper is going to be on this train, right? And the bad guys come and kill Sean Connery to try and shut the whole thing down. Kevin Costner finds him dying, and he's like, "What do I do? What do I do? What do I do?" And Sean Connery gives him the bloody timesheet for the train and stuffs it in his hand and says, "What are you prepared to do now?" That's it. It's in your hands. There's the timesheet. You know what you need. You know what you want. These are the stakes. You might get shot by Al Capone.
Right.
What are you prepared to do?
Yeah.
And I feel like that is ultimately what is being talked about with any major shift in technology or any of this stuff. You say you want to do this thing that is in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
How much do you want to do it?
I think that people are scared because they've been able to get a paycheck for the last 20 years doing exactly the same thing, and suddenly that job is gone and they don't know what to do with it. And that's very hard. And I'm sympathetic to that.
Yeah, I'm going through that myself right now. Right. Our business pretty much dried up.
Right.
And Jackie and I decided that I was going to divest myself of LA and moving back to the East Coast full time.
Right.
Because I could work from anywhere. Plus, I'm a 2-hour drive from Toronto, and there's a lot of activity out there as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's tough. It's when during the production summit, when Alan Lasky and Charles Fink spoke, they scared the shit out of me.
He did a great
I
job.
was so depressed. And
Alan Lasky,
I'm connected to him on LinkedIn.
now
So
Alan, I'm trying to get him. He's in Egypt right now doing some crazy.
no, he's
but
back.
He's back.
Yeah, he came back because of the war.
Oh, okay. So then I'll
Yeah.
contact him because his talk was fabulous.
It was amazing. The term hopeism, I thought
Yeah.
was really great.
Yeah.
How he tied hopeism into the articles that are Hollywood's coming back are really just PR firms trying to get money for productions that are trying to get off the ground.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
I don't think Hollywood knows what they're doing anymore right now. Here's the thing. I believe that this is the opportunity. If you really, really passionate about making good stories and being a filmmaker, because when you're in school, don't you all hope you're going to be a filmmaker at some point? You're not just going there because you want to be a texture artist, right? You're doing it because you have, this is your opportunity, right? And I also believe, tell me if I'm wrong about this, there's going to be way more bespoke visual effects teams that are for a specific film that are formed, not necessarily going to visual effects companies.
Because it's kind of
Independence Day guys did that, right?
Yeah,
Right.
that's how
Yeah.
Independence Day was set up.
Independence Day, yes, of
Yeah.
course. So, you know,
The producers,
Volker
and
and-
the visual effects
yeah.
supervisors, they drove around from facility to facility in a Winnebago.
right.
That I called them. They called the mothership, and it was ex people from RGLA. It was
But even the Daniels and the Daniels and everything everywhere all at once. Yeah, they're doing their own work.
Well,
Godzilla -1. The director's copying his own shot.
He's on the box himself.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why I brought the casting directors. Most because, like, you know, like the casting director is great because they have the vision to. It's like when you're talking about, like, okay, you need to be part engineer, part artist, right? The casting director needs to be part director, part a screenwriter, and say, like, who is it that fits this best? When they all work together as a group, what produces this feeling you're looking for? And now you're in the position where studios go, like, okay, well, I got to talk to Susan because she's going to put together a stew of people that's going to deliver the vibe
Yes.
that I want.
So I used to brag, I'll just put it out there like that I could walk into a studio and I could very quickly look around. And back when I was a producer, I would always kind of spend the first 30 days building my own org chart. Like there's the real org chart of people who say they do what they do. And then there's the real org chart of the people who actually get the stuff done and
The doers.
who reports to whom and where you go when you need a pencil and things like that. And then I can walk in and you can see, like, oh gosh, this place is lousy with Lavernes. You need at least 3 Shirleys.
Yeah.
1 Swiggy, 1 Carmine.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Dude. You get the whole show.
It's not about what people do. It's about who they are and
You
what
need
they
the
bring to the
Joeys. You
table.
need
Yes,
the Rachels.
that's right.
Exactly. This
you
is how it
need the
gets.
Starsky, you need the Hutch. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't work any other way. You got to have
That
and
this
at
is
least
the full flavor.
one person to make you really uncomfortable.
But I think that those generalists are going to be so important, right? Like
Absolutely.
if I look at, for example, Godzilla -1, if the director is comping his own shots for his own movie, he's the person that needs to approve it. I tell you, that decision of whether it's good or not is going to be way cheaper because you're not going to
For
go
sure.
through 35 versions and wait a week between each version to get an
Although,
approval.
I worked on Titanic and Rob Legato worked on a shot and he would not let that get.
See, this is okay. So like this, nothing teaches you harder what it is to be an artist than to be the one who says yes to your own work because you're just like, can I give this to somebody else to approve?
Well,
or to take away from me?
they say that all great works of art are never finished. They're just abandoned due to lack of money and time. And
Yeah, 100%. And this is where it comes in when you said about
Movies aren't finished, they're just released.
they were just released, exactly. Or to go back to your art crits in architecture school,
Right.
the greatest thing about going to an art crit is that you get so numb to other people shredding your work that neither the shredding or the compliments
Right.
do anything for your ego at all. They just
No.
become tools for making your own work better. Am I getting across what I want to get across? I don't care if you hate it.
There's deadlines.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing about like in architecture school, there were deadlines. There were serious deadlines. They used to be called charrettes. For those in the architecture school know exactly what I'm talking about. A charrette means it's back during the Beaux-Arts days in France. You would walk around with a charrette, which is a little cart. You had to finish your drawings and put it into the charrette. And that was it. That was when it was done.
pencils down.
Pencils down,
Yeah.
right? And it was like literally, that was it, and in the architecture school, we all, at the end of the semester, we had to be done. They would ring a bell, it's over, you had to be stopped and
Yeah.
done.
This reminds me. I always think of when you say that, it always reminds me of the shot in Jaws when and this is talk about teamwork. You have Quint is up on the pulpit and he's got the dart gun out, right? The shark is ripping along the side. He's only got one. He's like, okay, I'm going to do it. And meanwhile, Hooper is still tying off the barrel.
Right.
He's like, he's tying as fast as he can. And you hear Quint go like this, fire the gun. He's still tying Hooper. And he goes, pulls his hands away just as the barrel leaps out.
Right.
And I'm like, no, that's like making a movie.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. But I think there's going to be certain skill sets that's great. What are let's try to wrap this out because we're going a little long.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Janine Garofalo had a phrase.
Yeah.
Like she said, she was talking about how she was a slacker. I used to love to watch Janine Garofalo. It's absolutely, yeah. And she said, I am a can you start my orange kind of person.
Yeah.
And I think to be a successful person anywhere, you have to really start your own orange.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Brits say, pull your socks up.
Yeah, I've had to reinvent myself multiple times during the course of
we all
my
have.
career. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been an architect. I've been a this. I've been a that, and now I'm a producer. Like, who knows what I'm going?
Just pay attention to the cues.
I tell you what, do what you love, and you won't go wrong.
Amen. You figure it out. Imagine that you already lived through the apocalypse. You're in Mad Max. You can't sit around and go like, I guess I can't be a Maya artist now. Like, you got to figure it out. You got to figure it out.
Yeah, but there's what are the opportunities that they might have that they're missing? And I think one of them is making the movie you've always wanted to do.
There's that, yeah. And I think that
It worked for Gareth Edwards.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
having something on your reel that isn't schoolwork for sure, I think is really important, and understanding what constitutes a good reel. I see very senior artists though with, you're supposed to be your best stuff is also hopefully your most recent stuff, and it goes at the front. I was looking at someone's reel the other day, and it was like 10-year-old work on it. And it's like, well, I was doing a retrospective. It's like, you could do a retrospective, but if you want to get work, you kind of have to.
Retrospect.
Yes.
What have you done? What have you done lately?
Yeah, we used to have the 15-second rule at Imageworks. We would do reel reviews, and all the CG supervisors from the shows would come in and look at the stuff, and we would put in start the media playing, and it would play in real time for 15 seconds. If there was nothing within those 15 seconds that interested
It's
us,
compelling, yeah.
Right.
we now started fast forwarding it and let it go for about another 15 seconds, and then just eject and move on.
That's that.
Right.
So, a little side thing. I watch reels MOS. What is your thoughts about music on a reel?
I'm fine with it. Just I hate music with vocals.
Oh,
On a
interesting.
demo reel.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
remember
if it's
being
character animation, you obviously got to have.
Yeah, well, yeah, sound effects, that kind of stuff.
I was at a convention and I was interviewing some kid for Imageworks. He was just out of Puppy Mill, and I was looking at his demo reel.
Forever tainted as
Yeah,
CG.
yeah. I was looking at his demo reel, and Frank Sinatra song was playing in the background, and I completely disconnected from looking at his work.
Sure.
And I was like, I think this is on a song of Twin Lovers. I think I have that,
Oh, right.
But if they do it, I like it when
And
they
no
when
death
they-
metal
If they do it and it's creative, if it works with an edit, if they're trying to convey a message or they're trying to tell a story and it's like, oh, that's compelling, that's interesting. If I'm excited about it, that to me says something about their creativity or their filmmaking skill, right?
Yeah.
And that's.
Or for me, if it's wall-to-wall craft work, you can just do craft work, and I'm just like, you're hired. That's
Right,
That's all.
right.
That's any Euro digital.
Back in the old days, you didn't have that choice. You had all your stuff on digibeta, and you handed it off to an editor, and they would give you your reel.
Vangelis.
Yeah.
It's 100% jealous. That's it.
Yeah.
1492.
Or there was a period in the early 2000s where everyone put Chemical Brothers
Yes.
on every
Yeah.
single one of their.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was more into 808 stage. They used to call me edit demos.
Yeah.
When I was working at post houses, I would always be editing demos. And
Yeah.
Funny.
Awesome. So I think that what about you, Stanley? What would be the message you would do to someone, something positive that people can look at this opportunity right now to do?
One of the things I talk to students about is I did a presentation a couple weeks ago about this is how many hours you have to spend per week looking for a job. Once you graduate, your real job
All the hours.
which is finding, and I had very specific information. I actually used Perplexity AI to do a lot of research and actually build the slide decks. But, it's like keep learning, keep showing new stuff. And, I remember something Frank Gladstone said once, and he said, don't be discouraged.
Right.
So there's a lot of new opportunities out there when we worked on the Sphere for about a year, and every one of those jobs was custom built. They wanted people that covered all these different spectrums. So after the production summit, I started talking to them about global objects and WePlay and Chaos. And have you heard of any of these places? It's like these places all have in-house artists, and you're not going to look for these places. So you always have to be, researching. I teach them how to research. Every student has to bring a news story about the business of what they're studying every week, and then we talk about it. Yeah. So that's a really long-winded answer that didn't say much.
For sure. And one last thing I'm going to ask, and for both of you, we mentioned just before the podcast, I was like, we're seeing a lot of young kids right now that are in school that are like, AI is the devil, and they basically do not want to do anything in this, and they look at that as not good. Now, that's fine if they want to think that way. What would you tell them about that attitude and where they want to go with that?
I think stressing the point that this is your artist assistant, your creative assistant, and it can help you iterate fast, and in writing, it gets you over the fear of the blank page because, art students, they don't know how to write anything,
Right.
And anyways, and also I have a lot of Chinese and Korean students as well, so
Right.
this isn't their first language. So
What about you, Susan? What would you tell the people that are saying the AI is the devil and they don't want to do that?
I think your phone predictive text is AI. We're already
Google
using
Maps is AI.
I feel like AI is suffering from sort of a branding crisis. If you call it anything other than artificial intelligence, and I don't know if it's the artificial word or the intelligence word or both of them, a plate of shrimp.
Just sounds like job replacement.
A Repo Man reference. Oh man, we are friends. Okay,
Life of a
good,
Repo Man
yes.
is always intense.
That's right. Okay,
Yes.
A plus.
So I think that it's when people it's like anything, you have to break it down. So am I using it to get rid of repetitive, boring tasks that somebody else can do? Great. Am I using it to write the next great American novel? Probably not, because it's all crap. It's like it takes the high, it takes the low, and it smushes it. But what it does is give you a point of departure.
Yeah.
And everybody knows revising something is a lot easier than making something from scratch.
Sure.
But I also argue that you should have the pain and suffering of making something from scratch, because being able to nurture something that was just like a glimmer in your eye and then make it something fantastic.
I mean, I encourage my students to know as much about it. And one of the points that I made was, you're not the only graduating class from art school in this country.
Right.
And I can guarantee you there are a number of schools that have been on this for the past 4 years, and they're now going to be your competition when you're looking for work. If you have no experience whatsoever with the tool and you're resistant to learning it, you're putting yourself just a huge disadvantage.
And
You're up against a really talented artist who also uses this.
Yeah,
and then you're
exactly.
trying to get
in 4 years, I think the dust will settle.
4
I think
years.
that right now it's really insane. It's just absolutely crazy. I've got a 13-year-old and an 18-year-old, and they won't touch it.
Yeah.
They won't have anything to do with it. They feel like it's cheating. But my son will ask Alexa, things, fart noises and things like that. So, but it's just, I think that I have my own robot. Her name is Meredith, and she helps me with a lot of stuff, but I don't cut and paste from Meredith into anything. So
Right.
I think it's just all about leveraging the tools, and don't be afraid of it, because it's going to come whether you want it to or not. The best thing is, just like my family in Kentucky that I keep as Facebook friends, so I can figure out how the other half is.
Yeah.
Acting, so I can see what's coming down.
As a dyslexic person, it has been a godsend for me.
I'll bet.
Because it allows me, like if I'm basically trying to brain dump a bunch of stuff, I was trying to, I have to, like I went to SIGGRAPH, for example, and I have to report on all the different things. I just sort of like, as I'm going along, just dumping information into the AI, and it's like, okay, write me a report. Of course I have to revise the report because it's not all accurate, but at least it organized it for me and put it together, and like, all right, this is not a work of art that I'm just trying to tell people what I saw at
Yeah.
SIGGRAPH.
How about when it adds stuff that you didn't put in there?
Yeah, it's
It's
funny.
pretty crazy. Yeah, because I've got folders, and sometimes it'll pull in something from somebody else.
I'll tell you a weird one, right? So we're recording a podcast right now, and I go and for the recordings, and sometimes there, people do podcasts. I record podcasts with Bill online. As you know, we're doing this in person, which is great. When we do it online, I'll run, because some people just use their AirPods, and which is not great. But there's an AI enhancers now for audio that's just fantastic, right? I was like, It's like everyone sounds like they're in a studio. The problem is if there's some random little noise in the background,
It tries
it tries to interpret that as someone saying something.
Oh.
And it just like invent words out of nowhere
Nice.
that this person is saying, like this going, hi, so what's up?
Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's weird.
At least it's not, as long as it's not telling you to sharpen the knives.
But it's
No, I've used
inventing.
that voice. It's okay.
It's inventing. I think you could do that paranormal activity
Yeah,
kind of thing.
exactly. Yeah. AI-driven possession.
Long live the
I
new
did
flesh.
do a podcast with you earlier.
Yes. Between
I have a little
Video
dog
Man
that
over
barks in
here
the
and Video
background.
Drum
You have a
over
dog
here.
that barks in the background?
That
Yeah.
movie changed my life.
Oh, it's what all time. This is Video Drum, by the way. A little sidebar on Video Drum.
Okay.
Repo Man this way and Video Drum this way. Very good, but I saw.
That was, yeah.
That was good. That was good.
Good reference.
I think you have to be fans of films like this to be able to recruit.
Yeah.
You just have to be a little off kilter.
I'm
I'm way off kilter, but
absolutely.
So, and I think one more thing about that is like, not to, I mean, everybody is their own human being, but I think it's really helpful to understand, like Agatha Christie and Miss Marple,
Mhm.
you know, she'll be in London and she's like, oh, this is just like a St. Mary Mead where that guy, the vicar, put the dog in the closet or whatever.
Right.
Being able to relations and connections and how this, I mean, before I became a recruiter, I was really good at like putting people together for like bromance, business, romance, you know, matchmaking. And so, I don't know, just being open to how people are connected and how,
Yeah. Matchmaking is really what recruiting is.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much. This has been great to have this. It's good timing. I think people need this information out there to be able to be inspired. And I think, you know, what I've learned is like, learn some film history, learn how to learn, and be willing to adapt and ask yourself the tough questions. What are you willing to do?
Yeah, exactly. It's been vivid.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. I really enjoyed that.
New Hollywood, like a 1971's prime. From Otis' bold dreams to AI's fever dream, where tech meets the silver or LED screen. Pixels and passion are pipelines unknown to host one show on a deadline postponed.